For every loved DC comic character, there's one who's hated by many, starting with Poison Ivy. Now don't get me wrong, Ivy has her fans, especially in modern comics where she's portrayed as more of an anti-hero than a straight villain. But historically, Poison Ivy has been one of the most divisive characters in DC's lineup. First off, let's talk about the over-sexualization. For decades, Ivy was treated less like a complex eco-terrorist and more like the sexy plant lady. Instead of depth, she was reduced to a stereotype. That portrayal turned a lot of casual audiences off, making her feel cheap compared to the richness of Batman's other rogues. On top of that, we've got inconsistent portrayals. Sometimes Ivy is a one-note seductress. Sometimes she's a ruthless eco-warrior. Sometimes she's Harley Quinn's girlfriend. It's all over the place. There's no single definitive Ivy. It's not Poison Ivy's fault. It's DC's. Poor scripts dragged her down. Poison Ivy could have been a powerhouse villain on Batman's level, but for most of her history, she's been stuck as a divisive figure.
Rendezvous?
When we talk about the most loved DC characters, it's almost impossible not to bring up the Joker. He isn't just another villain in Batman's rogues gallery. He's a cultural phenomenon. What makes Joker so compelling is first his unpredictability. He's the ultimate wild card. Unlike villains who crave money or revenge, Joker's goals shift constantly. One day he's throwing cash at a parade. The next he's blowing up hospitals just to prove a point. That kind of randomness makes him terrifying because you can't plan for him, and fascinating because you can't look away. Then there's his psychological depth. Joker is more than a clown who kills people. He's a reflection of the darkest parts of humanity. Batman can never truly defeat him, because Joker isn't after victory. He only wants chaos. That contrast, Batman's order versus Joker's madness, is what makes their rivalry timeless. And of course, the portrayals sealed his status. Jack Nicholson made him stylish and larger than life in 1989. Mark Hamill's voice work defined him in animation. Heath Ledger took it further, locking himself in a hotel room for weeks to prepare, writing journals as the Joker. His Oscar-winning performance in The Dark Knight is still considered one of the greatest in film history. Joaquin Phoenix later reimagined him as a tragic figure broken by society, and audiences connected with that vulnerability in a whole new way. Both proved Joker can evolve endlessly while staying true to his core. So why is Joker so loved? Because he's more than just a villain. He's unpredictable, psychologically complex, darkly funny, and portrayed in ways that cemented him as a cultural icon. That's why Joker will always stand as one of the most loved and feared characters in DC history. Now let's flip it to the other side, Wonder Woman. On paper, she should be one of DC's most loved heroes, a warrior princess, a feminist icon, part of the Trinity. But despite that, Wonder Woman has always been strangely divisive. One big problem is inconsistency. Sometimes she's written as a kind diplomat who stands for peace. Other times she's a brutal warrior who kills without hesitation. That constant shift leaves fans unsure of who the real Wonder Woman is. Historically, she didn't get much respect either. Early comics often reduced her to campy stereotypes, and even in shows like Justice League, she rarely got the same depth of storylines as Batman or Superman. She felt more like a token than an equal. And then, the adaptations. Gal Gadot's 2017 Wonder Woman was a breakthrough and loved worldwide, but the sequel, 1984, weak plot, inconsistent powers, and way less impact. That back and forth doesn't help her image. Wonder Woman is iconic, but also polarizing. Loved for what she represents, hated for how inconsistent and unrelatable she can feel. Of course, when we talk about loved DC characters, the first name that comes up is Batman. What makes Batman so enduring is his relatability. Unlike most superheroes, he has no superpowers. His origin is rooted in tragedy, a kid who saw his parents murdered and chose to turn that pain into purpose. The idea that even the worst trauma doesn't have to define you, it can fuel you. Then there's his complexity. Batman isn't a one-note hero. He's a man constantly at war with himself. On one side, he's a symbol of justice. On the other, he's consumed by vengeance. That internal conflict makes him fascinating because he's both inspiring and deeply flawed at the same time. And let's not forget his adaptability. Batman works in almost every medium. Gritty comics like The Dark Knight Returns, campy TV like the 1960s show, blockbuster movies from Tim Burton to Christopher Nolan, and even animated classics like Batman, the animated series. Each version feels different but still true to the character, which proves just how timeless he is. Finally, Batman represents something bigger. He's proof that you don't need superpowers to stand among gods. With discipline, intelligence, and sheer will, he earns his place alongside Superman and Wonder Woman. That underdog appeal, the human in a world of superhumans, is why he's loved by so many. Now let's talk about Harley Quinn, one of DC's most controversial characters. At first, Harley was loved for being fun, chaotic, and a fresh addition to Batman's world. But over time, she's also become one of the most overexposed characters in DC Comics, animated series, movies, spin-offs. She's everywhere. And for some fans, that oversaturation made her feel less special. Another issue is her early identity. For years, Harley was defined only by her obsession with the Joker. Their relationship was toxic and abusive, but it was often romanticized, which left a bad taste for a lot of people. It wasn't until later that she began to break free and become her own person. But for many, that shift came too late. There's also the problem of inconsistency. In one story, she's a deranged villain. In another, she's an anti-hero. Without a clear direction, fans are divided on who the real Harley Quinn actually is. Harley is also one of the most polarizing characters in DC. For some, she's a hilarious, empowering anti-hero. For others, she's just an overused sidekick who lost her edge. And of course, Superman. The original superhero, Superman is loved because he represents something bigger than himself: hope. While Batman shows us what a human can become, Superman embodies the ideal we all strive toward: truth, justice, and the belief that people can be better. That's why he's lasted for nearly a century. He's not just powerful, he's inspiring. What makes him relatable, despite his godlike abilities, is his struggle with identity. Clark Kent is the farm boy from Kansas who wants to fit in, while Superman is the alien who must stand apart. That tension, the balance between living as a human and leading as a symbol, is why fans connect with him on a personal level. His comics have defined superhero storytelling. From classics like All-Star Superman to the tragic death and the death of Superman, he's been at the center of some of the biggest and most emotional arcs in comic history. On screen, Henry Cavill's portrayal gave Superman a modern edge, and fans loved seeing the emotional weight behind his choices. Cavill's Superman became iconic for a new generation. At the same time, Legacy with David Corenswet promises to give us a fresh take. It shows how Superman can constantly be reimagined and still remain timeless. He's not just DC's most loved hero, he's the foundation of the superhero genre itself.